So I was keyed into that Wolves-Grizzlies game last night and really keyed in on Cedric Howard. And every time I watch somebody in this rookie class, it really reminds me of that 2003 rookie draft class, which is one of the all-time great draft classes. So when I say that this draft class reminds me of them, trust me, that means I'm holding them in very high esteem. I know I'm probably a little bit older than most of my followers. Most of you guys weren't around for that 03-04 season. So let me take you down a trip down memory lane here. You had LeBron, you had Wade, you had Melo. Those guys, they stepped off the bus and they were ready to play right away. Each of them was averaging right around 20 points a game, getting their team in the playoff conversation. Like, you just knew those guys were going to be Hall of Famers as soon as they stepped foot on the court. You had Chris Bosh in Toronto. It wasn't the same rookie season for him. He had some flashes, but he wasn't having that instant Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James type impact. But you still knew he was a future all-star somewhere down the road. And then that first round was just littered with depth, littered with guys who were making impacts on their team right away as rookies, which you don't always see. You had Kirk Hinrich, he stepped into the Chicago Bulls, immediate starting point guard. You were very confident this guy could run a team for the next 7 to 10 years. You had David West, he stepped into New Orleans, he took that starting power forward job, and you knew he was just going to be a scrappy guy from the get-go. In Dallas, you had two guys crack their rotation as rookies. One of them, Josh Howard, was a late first-round pick. I remember living in Minnesota. I was really keyed into college basketball back then. I don't watch much these days anymore, but I really wanted the Timberwolves to take Josh Howard with their draft pick. The pick right before him, they took Ndudi Ebe. That guy was out of the league within like 2 years. And then that rookie year, you saw Josh Howard stepping in, getting real minutes for the Dallas Mavericks. And the Dallas Mavericks were contenders back then. They had Dirk, they had Nash, they had Finley. They were like top 3 favorites in the West. You had him, you had Marquise Daniels, who was a second-round pick. He also stepped in, filled a role right away. So that 03 draft class, we talk about the big four all the time, LeBron, Bosh, Melo, Dwayne Wade, but the rest of the depth around there, even had guys like Nick Collison, Luke Ridnour, like just names who were legitimate role players in their career, legitimate guys who stepped in as rookies right away and looked like they were ready to play right away. So fast forward to these days, and like I said, Cedric Howard, he doesn't seem to be getting a lot of buzz, but every time I watch a Grizzlies game, that guy's ready to play off the bat. Obviously, you got Cooper Flagg, who, if you guys want to be really honest, his rookie season, it kind of mirrors LeBron James' rookie season a little bit. So once again, let's go back to 03 LeBron James. They come out, they play him at point guard to start out. And LeBron, he's always kind of been a hybrid. That's why when people say Luka's a point guard, I'm like, well, if Luka's a point guard, then LeBron should have been classified as a point guard his whole career. But that's a debate for another day. But the Cavs were actually starting LeBron at point guard. He had to try to fit with Ricky Davis, Darius Miles. In the first 2 months, LeBron wasn't bad by any means, just like Cooper Flagg wasn't bad by any means, but it was a rocky fit and people were having questions. People were like, are we sure this kid is generational? And then the Cavs, they traded Ricky Davis. They got rid of Darius Miles. Carlos Boozer started to emerge a little bit more. Ilgauskas and LeBron built a little bit of a two-man game, and people were like, holy shit, this guy's really fucking good. Look at Cooper Flagg. They started the season with him at point guard. People were having questions. It was a little rocky. I was questioning it myself. I was never questioning Flagg. I was questioning Jason Kidd and what the hell he was doing with his development. Now they start playing Nembhard at point guard. They move off of D'Lo. He's barely playing these days. Davis, he's come back. He's played a real role for them. He's looked like an all-star big man in the minutes that he's played, even though those minutes have been few and far between. And you're seeing Cooper Flagg, he looks generational. You're seeing why he was the #1 pick, why people were so excited for him going into that draft. So you see a lot of the similarities between LeBron and Cooper Flagg. The rest of the draft, I mean, VJ Edgecombe, he has a lot of Dwayne Wade to his game. Similar to Dwayne Wade, the Miami Heat, they were consistently a playoff team in the late 90s, early 2000s. That 02-03 season was a step back season for them, but they still had a pretty talented roster. They still had Brian Grant, who was a scrappy veteran role player, guy who was going to get you 10 rebounds a game, play some defense. They had Caron Butler, an emerging second-year player. They had Eddie Jones, who had been an all-star wing throughout his career. Like, they were a team that just needed a piece to get them back into the playoffs. Look at VJ Edgecombe with the Sixers. That's a playoff team that just had a really bad season last year. So now he steps in, and obviously the ascension of Tyrese Maxey is why they are as good as they are. But the lightning that VJ has brought to their lineup can't be ignored either. So just a lot of similarities down the board. There's not really, I don't think there's really a comp for Melo. You know, Melo got drafted to a shitty Nuggets team basically carried them to the playoffs in his first year. There's nobody in the league doing that right now, but I do remember people were questioning if Melo's game was going to translate right away at the NBA level the way that it has. And I feel like people were questioning that about Dylan Harper too. And you're seeing right away it's translating. Kon Knipple is another guy, like he looks like he's going to be an all NBA player. If they redid the draft right now, I might take Kon Knipple number 2. That's how good he is. And then, like I mentioned before, Cedric Howard. I see a lot of Josh Howard in his game where he's stepping in and he's playing right away. And people who don't know out there, Josh Howard was a really fucking good player for the Dallas Mavericks until he got hurt. He was an all-star. I think he was flirting with all-NBA third team one of those years. The Mavs consistently won in the upper 50s and 60s with him as the second or third best player on their roster. Like, Josh Howard was a really good player, and he was a two-way player. He'd get you 16 to 20 points a night, and he'd be one of the better perimeter defenders out there. So this draft class right now, the depth that it has at the top, and then the guys when you're going down the line, you got Jeremiah Fears, you got Derek Queen, I already mentioned Kon Knipple. It seems like every week there's a new rookie from this draft class who shows out and starts to get some national media attention. So that 03 draft is one of the greatest drafts of all time. It's right up there with 1984, MJ, Charles Barkley, Hakeem, John Stockton. Then you got 96, you got AI, you got Kobe, you got Steve Nash, you got Jermaine O'Neal, Ben Wallace. Like, there's Hall of Fame names all over that draft class too. And I think, 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about the 2025 draft in the same vein as those historic drafts.